how to share my screen.
See, there's an option called share screen. Are you having it?
No.
1 second.
Third option from your left.
Yeah, I made it. Anyone can share. Can you try now? Third option.
Just a second. Sorry, guys. Share content.
1 second. I'll make you a presenter.
Hmm.
Aditi. What's your name, Aditi, on the login screen? Leno?
I think it's.
Yeah, it's Leno. Yeah,
Has it shared?
Yeah, I've given it to you. Yeah,
Okay.
done.
Is my screen shared now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hi everyone, this is Aditi from Studio Gudgudi, and I'm really excited to be here with you guys all. So I will tell you a little bit about what I do. So I run this company called Gudgudi, and Gudgudi is a design studio where we design playgrounds for children. I think it's a very interesting and exciting job to be designing playgrounds. So what sets us apart is that we go beyond the typical swings and slides and create play elements that relate to sensory development, which are age appropriate, which have something to do with sound, smell, touch, and visuals. So it's interesting, and as well as it promotes growth in children. So in terms of play installations, we have done quite a few across the country and different cities, approximately 16 cities across the country. And I will take you through some of our projects. So this project is at Victoria Memorial School for the Blind. So it was essentially a blind school which had children of all kinds of disabilities and not just visual impairment. So we here made a playground for all of those special needs children, but we made it inclusive in the sense that children with special needs and without, everyone can play together here. So this image that you see here, this one with tires is, we call it a tire jungle, tire and rope jungle. This is for physical play where children can climb up and down and crawl through the tires and stuff. Then this one that you see, these cones here, so we call them telephone pipes. You speak from one end and you can hear from the other end. So it's very interesting for children to figure out where the sound is coming from in the playground and figure which telephone pipe to speak from. So these are connected underground and hidden, and therefore it's very interesting for children to figure out. Also, something unique about this telephone pipes is that it is appropriate for most of the abilities and age groups. We have always seen even the labor who installs them on the playground side playing with them, and even a wheelchair user can play with them, or an adult or anyone. These we call as tantrums. So when you jump on them, they make a sound. So there is physical activity and there's an auditory feedback to this. And this one that you see here, this is a colored lollipop. So I'm sure you guys must be practicing some sensory play at home. And this is in relation to that. So you can see your playground in different colors through these colored classes. We've also made an interactive wall there. So here we have lots of textures here and colors, and you can climb up the wall. You can use the wall for balancing. You can write on it. There's a little periscope attached here, if you can see this tiny little blue thing. And with this, a child can go behind the wall and spy on his friends, and it can be used for imaginary play purposes. This is another project. This is at Jevakil School, again in Bombay. So here there were children who had intellectual limitations. So there were children with autism, cerebral palsy, all sorts of different intellectual limitations. So here also we have an interactive wall where you can crawl through, you can balance and climb up. Then we have a range of tactile tiles. and some auditory elements like these resonance bells. So each of these bells have a different resonance to improve the a sense of sound for children. And these are bamboo chimes here. This one is at North Star School in Rajkot. This was a school. This was a IB board school, and they put a lot of emphasis on play. And being Rajkot, it's very hot. I mean, you get rain only, I think, in a month, in a year or something, and it's really dry, arid, and hot. And therefore, we made the playground in such a way that it uses very little grass and is mostly out of sand. And this whole wall works as something to divide the entire play space, or and also act as a play element in itself. So there are these climbing walls here, and there's a slide also integrated here. There's a little castle here, and there are a lot of balancing activities. This one is an indoor playground. So this is an indoor, and we put a lot of emphasis on role play here. So this is a construction role play that you see right here. So there are these little bricks here, there are small tools, and there are carts to take around the bricks and everything, the construction caps and everything for children to get a feel of how construction is done. In the same space, we've also done a garage. So for the garage, we put an actual car into the play area where children could change the tires, they could change the number plates, they could sit inside the car, they could honk to their content, they could pretend to drive around, etc. Then there's a little kitchen role play. I think we've all played kitchen and house as we were growing up, and therefore it's the more elaborate version of the same. This one that you see here at the bottom right is a racetrack room. So we have a life-size kind of racing track for you. So you can put your remote control cars and do race around with those. And this is a mount with a ball pit. So you can climb up, you can crawl through the tunnel and land into the ball pit. As I said, that we put an emphasis on inclusive play. That is really important to us. We feel that I mean, as Gudgudi, our vision is that every neighborhood playground should be inclusive. Therefore, no child, no special needs child or any child should think, where do they go and play? Every space has to be by default inclusive. For example, how we have cameras fitted in our mobile phones these days, and no one gives it a thought that why are cameras and mobile phones integrated? But they are. Same way, playgrounds and inclusive playgrounds should go in hand without having a separate meaning to it. So this is our collaboration with Reliance Foundation. It was a CSR project. So we developed an inclusive playground at Chandigarh. Here we have some of the elements photographed here. So this is a wheelchair accessible spinner. So a spinner being at a floor level, a wheelchair can easily access, and other children can also play on it. These we call as symbol mushrooms. Children can use sticks found in the garden, or stones or whatever they find, to play them like drum cymbals. This is a roller bed. This is inspired from occupational therapy rooms, where they have something like this to calm hyperactive children. So something similar we have developed here, and we realized that this is an activity that all children could benefit from. And there are obviously lots of swings. So also another thing is that when we design inclusive playgrounds, we think not only from a wheelchair perspective, but we realize that there are multiple personalities in children. There are children who might have some visual limitations. There are children who might have intellectual limitations. hearing and speaking limitations, and therefore all children who are special needs are not on wheelchairs, and therefore we don't have to design the play space for a wheelchair. We have to design it in an inclusive format which is interesting for everyone, and all children are inspired to come and play there together. And only then I feel that the stigma that is related to disability can be removed. So I have just put together, I think Shantini is going to speak in more detail about those ideas, but I've put together some of the ideas that we could all incorporate in our homes during this lockdown to make it interesting for children and let their energies out and allowing them to play. So I'm just going to very briefly talk about this and then hand it over to Shanti. So I thought because of lockdown, there are limitations about what you can really buy and what you have at home and everything. So why not use something as simple as leaves? So, you know, what can you do with leaves with children? So in terms of creative aspects, you can create a whole color palette out of leaves. You know, starting from light green, like new leaves to dried leaves. There's so many colors. I think that can also bring about sensitivity about color, about nature, about the life cycle in nature. Then threading the leaves, I think that is a great fine motor skill that we can have here. You can make necklaces out of it, you can make torans out of it, and many more things. Obviously, some collages with leaves. If you have got no colored paper or limited other stationery, why not let children use leaves that they find around? And how about painting leaves? I think that is something always fun. You can paint leaves in as many ways as you want and scatter them around. Then Ziploc bags. I think Ziploc bags are also usually found at homes and easily procurable. So some play ideas with those. If you take a Ziploc bag and put some water and some oil and some color in it, it becomes a very interesting tool for children to be engaged for, I think, hours together. If you stick them on the wall, on windows like this, it can also act like a visual element, allowing sunlight to filter through the different colors that is there in the Ziploc bag, and also get children to put their hands onto different things and feel the water and oil mix up. Then cardboard. I think we all have shopped on Amazon and different online websites, and we get so much cardboard boxes with us that it's insane. So why not use that for play? Also because schools are shut right now, and if we want some Montessori activities, so we don't need to buy expensive Montessori kits, but using simple cardboard, we can create some interesting activities for children. So like this one has a lot of holes which you can do with your punching machines and get a shoelace or something to get the children to weave onto this. Same thing here, which is with shoelaces or tying a hairband or a gift wrap. So drawing simple elements, but is a lot of fun for children, and it improves their fine motor skills. Same thing here, put a lot of bottle caps here and some rubber bands, and it becomes an interesting tool. You can write on this, you can practice your alphabet, you can make patterns, anything that you want. Some more ideas with cardboard. So this one is just simply cut out here, and you can fill in pebbles and beads and whatever you find. Again, helpful for fine motor skills. This one also, this is, I think you guys would have seen a similar version in wood and plastic in many of your Montessori schools and classrooms. Something simple that can be made at home. This is with, again, cardboard and bottle caps. So you can stick animal heads and bodies separately so you can match them. And again, it's great for little fingers to get better. And if you're not using your your makeup during this lockdown because you're not going anywhere and you're feeling especially generous, so why not let children use it for a change? And use cardboard. Again, make some hands and some lips and let children have fun. Then some other physical play activities, maybe make a tunnel out of cardboard and, or a racing track. You saw one in the image that I showed you before in the indoor playground there. This is a much easier version and something that you can customize and your children can make their own and play a whole day long on staircases with these racetracks. Then children have a lot of pent up energy because they're not able to go outside. They want something like you must be getting frustrated at times of how to release that pent up energy. So just putting down a few ideas for that. I think blowing takes up a lot of time and it releases a lot of energy also, and I think it can get children tired also easily. So some activities with blowing. This one, spray painting, everyone knows, so you can get some paint, watery paint, and some paper or cardboard and just put on that and straw. And that's all it takes for children to be engaged for hours and hours together. Similarly, a caterpillar and some straws and have a caterpillar race. And we all have gloves in this lockdown, face masks and gloves. So using some new gloves, if you can spare, and some paper cup and straw. And we have some blow up vases or bunnies that we have. Then children, of course, like to draw, but I think drawing with their feet can be something more interesting for them. So pinning up some pieces of paper on wall and giving them crayons or sketch pens or pencil to hold in their feet and draw. It will give them some really good exercise of legs, and at the same time create some beautiful artwork which you can show them later as they grow up. Or if they are in a really cranky mood, why not put some paint under your makeup remover pads and get them to hammer it and have some beautiful splatter paintings. It will get their, like if they're getting frustrated and they really want to release, I think hammering would be a great idea, but this one will give some creative output for the same. Then some other ideas, I think we all would have seen this, having some feet and hands taped to the floor, and then you keep jumping and crawling onto that. I think this is a great idea to keep children engaged and to get them some physical activity. It wouldn't take too much space, but I think it will keep children very engaged. Then to let them again get their frustration out, pull something with put some rope or something on the wall on the door handle and let them pull it away. Then having some obstacle course with simple ribbons. If you've got paper ribbons or thread or anything of that sort lying around in your house, you can just tape it up and call it laser. Let children imagine this is whatever, as some spy movie or something that they have to get at the end of it as a diamond or something, and let them crawl through and get through this laser tunnel. And yeah, so that's about it for me. I hope some of those ideas were useful to you guys. over to Shantini now.
Thank you so much, Aditi, for the wonderful ideas. I think this is the perfect way to engage children during lockdown, creating all these, small play areas inside their house. It's amazing. Thank you so much. Okay,
Thank you.
I would like to talk more about sensory play today, and yes. So, as Aditi has very appropriately spoken about play and the importance of play in real life, and how does it help children to be, able to be a part of the play area, be it special needs children or neurotypicals. I would talk a little bit on sensory play and how would that help children to explore and develop new things in life. Okay. So I'm Shantini Sinha, and I'm a master's in psychology from Indian Institute of Psychology and Research. I've done my super specialization in psycho-oncology. Post that, I felt my knack towards special children is more. So that's how I shifted my genre, and I work hands-on with children having special needs, and I work as young as 1.5 to 20 years old. So, yes. And I kind of specialize in ABA also. So, my entire area of therapy is based mostly on ABA. So, first and foremost, when we talk about sensory play, we have to keep certain things in mind that sensory play is not only about touching and feeling. When we talk about sensory, we focus mostly on the five major senses that children have. All of us we have, right? So whenever we are seeing something, tasting something, smelling something, touching something, right, all of that, they create some kind of neural stimulation. If I'm supposed to break down what is neural stimulation, it kind of creates an experience in the brain. Okay. And when the brain kind of picks up the same sensory activation, they try to form a memory out of it. For example, if I know how rice feels, that's only because I've been touching rice like almost every day, because I've been washing rice, cooking rice, eating rice. So the more you touch, the more the neural connections in your brain become much more stronger, and that helps you to understand and perceive what are you touching, how does it feel good, does it feel bad. So that happens for each and everything, including sight, including hearing. So if I like, how do we, all of us, when we feel sad or when we feel upset or when we had a very tough day at work, how do we know that music is going to help us soothe, or how do we know that taking a good shower is going to help us soothe, or probably going for a swimming class, or probably hitting the gym? How do we all know? That's only because when we have first experienced that post a bad day, our brain has tapped on that connection. And the moment the brain taps on that connection, the brain prepares us to say that, you know what, this actually made you feel good when you had a bad day. Why didn't you try it again? So your brain starts seeking for such connections or such kind of experiences. So through play, if you expose your child to all these senses together, that's not only going to help them develop cognitively in terms of problem solving, decision making, cause and effect, comprehension. It's not only going to help that in them in these areas, but it's also going to definitely help them to develop a coping mechanism. So these are studies that I have quoted. There have been extensive number of studies which have been done in the past, and most of the scientists say that when we are doing a particular work in a very normal scenario, for example, if you're studying or you're learning something in your desk, you're sitting on your desk, right? You need 400 repetitions to create a new synapse, to create a new connection in your brain, to recognize that something is happening and it seems to be good in a normal scenario. But whenever you turn that into play, it only takes 10 to 20 repetitions for you to realize that this is something that's working. So you can understand that play can help you understand a lot of simple things in a very much simpler way. Like, I would say complex things in a simpler way. Sorry. So if there's a cause and effect, what is causing a particular thing to have a result? If it's difficult for our children to teach it, but then when we put that into play, that becomes much more easier and much more understandable. So we have seen a lot that sensory play has been efficient, especially with special needs children, because firstly, they do not understand much of the normal things that's happening, and we have to keep on repeating, and we have to keep on, pressurizing them to understand this is happening this way. You need to understand it this way, and no, it has to be done in this way. So what do we do is we have four types of sensory play that we include in the play skills, and that helps the child not only to overcome a lot of obstacles or behavior, but also enhance their learning capability. So when we are talking about sensory block, sensory bin, sensory wall, it doesn't only let them, feel and touch and understand things. It also makes them to be very mindful. We have heard about mindfulness-based cognitive behavior therapy, or we have heard about mindfulness and meditation. So what is this mindfulness all about in terms of special needs? When they are touching and feeling something, whenever they're touching and feeling, they try to recognize the texture, how it feels around their fingers. It focuses a lot on gross motor and fine motor skills, and it also helps them to enhance the memory. So if I know how a ragi bean looks like and a rajma bean looks like, and if I'm able to compare, that is what a higher cognitive skill is. If I'm able to understand what kind of feeling each of these grains are going to give it to me, and if I'm able to effectively use my playtime engaging in those kind of play. Right. So this is all the sensory play is all about. As I already spoke to you, memory takes a lot of time to form. Okay, be it in neurotypicals, be it in special needs children. Special needs children needs more stimulation because there are certain deficits that they have in their learning process. If a neurotypical needs 10 to 20 stimulations, the special needs children definitely is going to need more than that, definitely. So whenever you are including these learning concepts in play, be it some role play, be it a pretend play in the sensory area itself, that helps them to grasp concepts very easily. That helps them to understand and also apply it. Okay, so let's look at this in this way. This is what a sensory block is. Today, I'm going to show you two do-it-yourself techniques of sensory block and the sensory bin. So let's first start with the sensory block. So this is how a block looks, and the block has different textures around all the sides. So it's a cube which has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8 sides, right? So yes, when you're trying to kind of uh, attach each and every different stimulatory bits on other sides, it kind of gives you a sensory block look. So, for example, in one side, you can attach something that's soft. The other side, you can attach something that's smooth. The other side, you can attach something with grains. Other side, you can attach something with beads or pebbles. So, what happens is we all know that waiting is a huge challenge for special needs children. They do not want to wait at a place, be it they're waiting in the supermarket or even waiting for their parent to come out of the house and take them somewhere. If they have already gone first, they're going to run away, right? So if waiting is a challenge, this tool can definitely be used for a waiting to enhance waiting. Okay, it kind of serves as a fidget toy also. So when they are kind of bored and then they are not really feeling, they just don't have anything good to do, and they're not feeling good about it, so you can just give them the block and they can fidget on their own. So what happens at the same time, you are kind of helping them to calm down, and you're also engaging their time effectively. And in case of waiting, definitely, I mean, you're going to definitely see a huge drastic change coming up in the waiting time. The waiting time is definitely going to go higher up, right? So this is how a sensory block looks like. The next one that we have is a sensory bin. Okay, now sensory bin is again mostly into a play. So if you have a, a meltdown, you just had a meltdown, right? And the child is not really willing to calm down, and is even after a meltdown, he's kind of very active. So what you do is you can help set up these sensory bins at home with different textures. I have a DIY, so I can just tell you how you can do it. This is not only going to help them to you know in their gross motor or fine motor skills, but it's definitely going to help them give an overall picture of all the senses. So they can touch, feel, they can put it around themselves. They can even put their hands up into it and feel all the texture. You can do a lot of role play in this. For example, if you see here, there are stones and pebbles kept. So if you put a truck there and you say, you know what, the truck is lifting all the stones and the big rocks from the construction site. Can you have the truck do more of that? So what happens is you are actively engaging the child in the play, which not only focuses on calming down themselves, but also on the other play skills and other concepts like you can work on task management. You can work on task completion, that you finish this job and then we can move on to the next one, right? First we have to pick up all the pebbles from one jar or one basket, and then we move on to the next plate, right? So a lot of things can be tapped on using sensory bins like this. So yes. Next, we come to sensory wall. Now, sensory wall is a very it's a concept which is majorly used abroad. So that's how I'm trying to use as much Indian products as we can to make it more Easternized. So these are all Western concepts. Have been variedly used with children with autism, and they have seen amazing results in their learning capabilities and understanding, comprehension, and all of that. Okay, so this is a particular wall. You can probably select a portion, a wall, a section of the wall in your child's playroom, or in any corner of your house, right? You can put different textures up on the wall. So whenever the child is not feeling very good or not feeling up to it, or kind of is in a frenzy and just needs some time out, on just needs some time alone, they can just go there, spend time, and again touch and feel through all the textures, and get an overall view about the entire thing, right? So whenever you touch through the soft sponges here, or the marbles here, or the different types of grains here, or if you touch through the scrubbers here, different texture create a different stimulation in the brain, and they would actually get to understand which is good, which is bad, which is helping them, which is not. So we all have those likes and dislikes, right? We don't like a particular smell, we don't like a particular texture, we don't like a particular noise. Like some people love the smell of petrol, however some people just hate it, they end up throwing up, right? Some people love the texture of slime, some people find it extremely yucky, right? So now with this, now we don't know what the child really likes and dislikes until unless we expose them to the all these kind of textures. So whenever you're doing them, they understand their likes and dislikes, and they go back to those textures again. So you will have a variety of textures, but you will see that their preferences are towards a particular texture, and they're not going towards certain textures, right? So that way they understand what they like, what they don't like, what is good for them, what is not good for them. That is kind of the first step of decision making. And you can teach them through all these play essentials only. Okay, this is a little bit concept. Okay, so I have had a lot of clients where they say that right before going off to bed, that the children are extremely hyper. They don't want to go to bed. They have a lot of behaviors. They scream, they shout, they even get into a very bad fight with their siblings. So it can be so that they have a lot of energy, and they have not got this entire day, if they've not used the entire day successfully to release their pent up energy. So a sensory room would give them a sense of safe corner in their own house, a corner where they can go and they can basically release their energy. they can spend their their pastime, or they basically, some days when you just don't feel good about anything, you can just go spend your time, they can just go spend their time there. Okay, a lot of times when we don't feel good, we go stand in the veranda, right? Or we go for a walk, or we go to the terrace with a cup of coffee, right? If you go and if you tap on all the sensory things, we are definitely exposed to a lot of sensory stimulations when we are doing that. If you're going and standing in the veranda itself right after the rain and you don't feel like doing anything, it's that you're feeling the cool breeze. If you're holding a cup of coffee, that cool breeze and the warmth of the coffee kind of gives you a very cozy and warm feeling. At the same time, you can actually look around and feel the breeze. So even when you are just going and standing and feeling it, just that I'm not feeling good, I'm just standing, that itself taps on a lot of sensory stimulation. So you can understand, especially child will have loads of it, and when you do not know how to channelize it, they will have a lot of behavioral issues coming up. So this is one way which we have seen, giving them a safe space, safe area to cope up with their feelings, to cope up with their emotions, and it's just that they constructively use their time. Again, this has to be definitely put under the supervision of the parents, that they know exactly how much time are they spending. It cannot be the whole day long. So they should know whenever they're not feeling, instead of throwing a tantrum, they can rather go inside the sensory room and feel good about it and just explore and play with whatever they want. A sensory room has aromatizer, it has cause and effect lights like this, or the ceiling lights, which kind of gives the effect of stars and moving moon around the room. You can have a small sitting area like this one, or a bean bag probably, that just makes them feel comfortable. You can have some wind chimes or something like that, or some musical instrument, or probably white noise music, which helps them to calm down. So all sensory room is basically for children to cope up with in times of stress, whenever they are experiencing any kind of behaviors, or whenever we are understanding that they're extremely stressed and they don't want to do certain things, you can always use sensory room to help them calm down. Okay, this is again another study which was done in 2011, and then they said that children, when they work with materials like sand and water, they understand what is warm, what is cool, what is wet and dry, rough, smooth, texture, slimy. So they basically start understanding different textures and different classifications and different characteristics of things. Okay. So now, whenever they will know, they'll start classifying, they'll start sorting. Those are the first steps that we otherwise teach during our language program to the children. But if you can incorporate that in play, I think the learning is going to be much more long lasting, right? Because language programs, what we usually do on tabletop, is very monotonous for them. But if you, instead of teaching them what is hot and cold on the screen or using flashcards, if you really expose them to hot and cold things, smooth and rough things, or wet and dry things, the that kind of learning is much more permanent. Okay, so now we're going to discuss a little bit about your sensory bins. This is something which is available online. I'm going to share the link with you so you know where exactly you can purchase it from. So this is basically a travel pack, okay, for all your clothes and undergarments. So if you can purchase this, this has compartments like this, okay. If you can join all the compartments together, put all these different kinds of beans inside, including pebble, including cotton. So if you put one particular section filled with cotton, the other one probably with some rajma beans, another one with pebbles, a big one, you can probably use a bigger one with fill it up with pebbles. The other small one here, you can use chana dal. The other one you can use ragi, and this one probably you can use the aquarium pebbles, right? So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different textures all together. Okay, and you kind of don't keep it separate. Yeah, keeping it separate helps you to store it well, but I think when the child gets it all together, it's very good for them to play with each of them, at the same time, right? So I would suggest if you can stitch it against one another and stick it together, it will give a better feel. Put all of these things together, and your sensory bin is ready. Sensory bin is ready. So this is something you can try home right away, using a few things, which is available readily at your kitchen. One more thing, you have to be a little careful. Some kids are a little sensitive to certain textures. Okay, so it's always good to do an assessment. You can always get back to us. We can do a proper assessment of what the child is, good at, enjoys holding or feeling, and what he doesn't like. Because a lot of times, if you stimulate the child with certain textures which they are not very comfortable at, this is going to be more aggressive than playful for them. Like they'll basically not like indulging in this, and they might even throw it away, and they just might be not very keen on playing with this. So it's always good to do a proper assessment for the children for your child. It's definitely personalized, so that would give you a better result. Okay. I have one more video to show you. Probably I'll just 1 second. This is about the sensory bin. Okay, sorry, sensory block. Okay, this is how, if you have a block like this, you can start putting different textures. So whenever you put this, you do this. Sorry, when you do this, 1 second. Yeah. So these are the very now these are the velvety papers which are available. You can always go to Itsy Bitsy and buy different kinds of texturous papers that's available there, or you can make handmade paper at home using crushed paper or crushed material, or even different cloth, the torn away parts, the parts which you throw it away, or probably your t-shirt that's worn out and you're not going to use it. You can cut smaller portions of it and stick it on each side of the cube. Okay, so we can end our webinar today. I'm sorry about that. One second. Yeah. So I think with that, we can end our webinar today. And if you have any questions, if you have anything, again, we are open to all kinds of questions here. In case of the sensory wall and the sensory room, you might need our help, right? So we are always open to that. So you can always get back to us with any kind of inputs that you require. We also help the parents set up a sensory room and or a sensory wall. So in that case, I think Midun will be talking to you. So you can just give in your orders, so then we can start working on it, because as you know, the lockdown is on. So it's going to be a little difficult to arrange all the materials. But if you place your orders, or if you talk to us about the ideas and all, we can take it forward from this. These are the two things which definitely requires a little bit of professional help, because we need carpenters to come up and set up, even if it's a wall. Yes, and even if it's a room, definitely you need a little more supervised work in this. Other than that, in these two cases also, you can either make your own, or again, you can get back to us on this. We can create a personalized box for your child, where we would be focusing mostly on their preferences on a sensory bin. So this is, again, can be customized according to your child's need, both this and the block. So you can always get in touch with us regarding your requirements. You can place your order so that we have enough time to work on it. Yes, I think with that, we can end.
Yeah. Thank you, Sai.